his background. His father comes from Japan because of the alien land laws, mostly directed at Chinese and Japanese. Asians couldn't own land. And his father, it's a little ironic that Native Americans were in the Yakima Indian Reservation was where his father ended up going. So even though the native peoples had had their land taken, they shared it with the Japanese that came over. Shortly thereafter, Isao and his family were interned in the Hart Mountain, Wyoming concentration camp during that period of time of the Second World War. He continues to teach everyone and me, and tonight we have the honor of having him tell a story of the work of the Central Valley Partnership and teach us some continuing lessons. So welcome Isao Fujimoto tonight.
Dan mentioned, I spent the war years in the camps in Hart Mountain and Tule, California. And one of the groups that really came through for us was the American Friends Service Committee. And the work that they had done was really amazing. They helped people as they were going into the camps. They work with people inside the camps, and they help resettle them. And one of my fondest memories is the work that got me started in terms of community work was through the American Friends Service Committee. What I'm going to do tonight is discuss what's special about where we live. This is the Central Valley of California, and there's some amazing contradictions as well as highlights of this area. This area, the Central Valley of California, 450 miles, 18 counties, about 100 cities, is the rich agriculture area. It's not only the richest agriculture area in California, not only in the United States, but in the world. This is the world's richest agriculture region. And yet, the 500 cities that are in California, if you start ranking them in terms of income for a family of four, the poorest 50 cities in California, the majority of the poorest 50 are in the Central Valley. So you have this amazing wealth of production, 200 different crops, and then you have this amazing series of communities right in the same area of many people who are very impoverished. And so what I will do is quickly go through some pictorials describing this area, and both in terms of the challenges, the promises, but also what kind of solutions do we have. And the long and short of it is this: we have tremendous wealth in terms of what's produced in the Central Valley, but we don't have the matching in terms of the people. But there's tremendous wealth in terms of what the people can offer. And so I've worked with a number of different groups in the last the 50 years I've been with UC Davis, and I've come across a lot of very inspiring people who are doing great things in the valley. So I'm going to take you quickly through the trip through where we are and what the challenges are and what the promises are. So I'll have Don helping me out here. Okay, this is more or less what we'll talk about here. The situation of looking at the valley is paying attention to not just what's in the front, but also what's in the back, what's hidden. And I think this kind of analogy can be very useful in terms of anything that we try to understand. So I'm going to take you quickly through this, all right? Go ahead. Here's the different regions of California. I know it's not that visible to everybody, so I'm just going to discuss this briefly, what's on the slide that's being projected. But here's the Central Valley, and this area here is the richest agricultural region in the entire world. 450 miles, 18 counties, all right? Now, these are logos of cities. And this is how any city will try to project who they are. So if you look at these cities, they're very brief, but you know, you can catch glimpses. You know, location near the ocean, what the prize might be, history in the case of San Marino, and so on. This would be the front of a city. I'll show you more of the logos of Central Valley towns. Here is Mendota, it's Cantaloupe capital. There's Corning, the olive capital. There's the Orange Cove in terms of its production and so on. So just in terms of the front, you might get a picture of the sense of how any community tries to project who they are. But let's look at this in terms of the income, all right? Okay, this is based on census data from about 2010. So things have changed a little bit. But look at this. Here are cities that shows the income for a family of 4. And these are cities like Rolling Hills, for example, Rolling Hills Estates. These are in Los Angeles County. And for a family of 4, $150,000, $80,000, $90,000, $150,000 was the income for a family of 4. Now let's take a look at those towns in the Central Valley. Okay, this Huron is the poorest city in California. And for a family of 4, this is 2010 figures, but 14,000. It costs more than that to just go to UC Davis. So, you know, you can just imagine what families in that town will face. And so you hear other towns too. These are prime agricultural areas, and yet the family income is below 20,000. So this is why I say it's very useful to look at places from the front, but also start asking questions to put you in the back as well. And this is one example of the city logos looking very attractive, but by looking at the logos itself may not tell you that much. Once you start looking at income, you start getting a very different picture.
Get into the mic.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. Sorry. Okay. All right. Okay. Here is a map showing the richest and the poorest communities in the state of California. All those in yellow, they're the top 50, and they're pretty much in the Bay Area, Los Angeles County, Orange County. But take a look at all what the red are. The great majority are in the richest agriculture producing areas of the state. And then the ones that look like a target are the poorest 10. And you find those 10 pretty much around where we are right now in Fresno, Tulare, Kern County areas. So this says something, a real quick graphic about just understanding our state in terms of the contrast it presents. Okay. But this is I'll just talk about, I know it's not very visible, but there's about 1,000 public schools in the Central Valley, and there are about 250 public schools where 80, 90 to 100% of the school children qualify for free lunch. So that's another indication about the kind of extreme situation facing people who live in this rich area. Okay. So just a reminder about getting to know any place is what do we see, but also what do we not see. Okay. One thing that may not be obvious, and as I was coming to recently to Fresno, we see signs about people plugging for water, and you can't produce food without water. The question is, do we know who really controls the water? And this map shows the way in which water is governed. And this is pretty much all Central Valley. All of those that are clear, like these, means that the people in the town determine how water is used and priced. All those places which have lines through it are water districts where the decisions about what the price for water is set by those who own land and use the water. So you can just imagine, taking a look at this, that great proportion of the Central Valley decisions about water is made by smaller groups of people within that area. So you can take a look at these areas. Like this is the Westland Water District. It's the biggest water district in California. And you can just kind of imagine, you read about Westland in terms of the power that it has and the price that it sets, but the decisions about those are made only by a few people, not by everybody, like in those areas which are don't have lines through them. Okay. Another part that's invisible is what do we know about the background of these communities? This happens to be a map of part of my own experience. When the Second World War started, the people of Japanese descent were rounded up and put into camps. And before the permanent camps were built, the people were put into temporary camps. And the temporary camps were mainly made from county fairgrounds, racetracks, and so on. And more than half of them were in the Central Valley. So again, I don't know how many people pay attention to historical records like this, but the Central Valley was another area of these kind of internment camps. All right. Now, I want to get into the part that I consider a real wealth of the valley. And this, I'm referring to the people who live here. And these, I have all these names up here, and they refer to people who pretty much are producers and workers in this area called the Central Valley of California. I just want to quickly, these are languages, for example. Who speaks Hmong or Kahobal? Where do Lahu, Kamu, Cham, Shan people come from? And where are the Mixtec, Triquis, Zapotecs, where are they from? They're in the valley, but people don't pay attention. I didn't recognize these names. The other thing is, in terms of the production, these are some examples of people who are producing the different crops that make the Central Valley so well known. The Punjabis, the Azorians, the Mennonites, Armenians, Laotians, Sicilians. In areas that both ethnic and religious groups have been involved. And we have this tremendous potpourri of people who are working in the valley and making the valley so well productive. And so I want to take you to a quick trip about what are the signs of diversity in the valley. And one, of course, is paying attention to the religious institutions. Going beyond the Christian background, we have mosques and temples here in the valley. The other one is paying attention to the festivals. And then, of course, there are many associations, the hometown association, people who come from a certain part of a certain country, and they form associations because people tend to congregate in terms of points of origin. And there are many types of ethnic media that are available. So there's a tremendous diversity and clues to knowing the cultural wealth of this area. Okay. Here's a sign in the little town of San Joaquin, and the signs in 3 languages here. English, Spanish, and the third one, that's Punjabi. All right. And these are location of different temples and mosques, Sikh temples, and the color code is here in terms of which religion is represented. And these are, of course, plotted in terms of location in the Central Valley. Okay. We could skip over this. We have many kinds of festivals and events. And the Portuguese, for example, have bull rigs, and this is in the town of Thornton. Okay. Well, this is just a quick reference. That's okay. Every ethnic group has different kinds of associations, and many of them who come from same areas form an association of just a hometown. And if you look at this is a map showing all the different groups from Mexican hometowns, and they're plotted on this map of California. Okay. Again, another way to get a sense of the cultural wealth is what kind of publications are printed to reach different people of specific ethnic groups. Okay. And of course, this is the foundation. And California has a real historical richness in terms of just a native population. So this shows you a map of which native group was in which part of the state. Okay. And we now have about 100,000 people from Mexico, but the Spanish is the second language, and they're coming from the state of Oaxaca. And these are Mixtecs, Zapotecs, Triqui, Conjogo people. And so this is just a map showing the different languages. There's about 40 plus languages in Mexico. So, okay. All right. And we also have people from Guatemala. So this is just showing a map of, go ahead, of Guatemala. And again, we have people who speak language like Mam and Conjogo who are in the valley as well. Okay. Laos has about 60 different languages, and we have a pretty large population of Laotians, and of course the most numerous are the Hmong, but we also have Khmu, Lahu, and people from who speak Laotian. So again, even though they come from one country, the country has many different ethnic groups, and they're represented here as well. Okay, these are just examples of ethnic media, Japanese comics, and of course it's not just the newspapers, but it's the radio stations as well. All right. Main reason we're showing this is there's a sign saying that these are crabs, they're alive, so that don't grab them in the picture. We also have people from Liberia, from different parts of the world, and I'll go into this more in terms of the work that I've done with the Central Valley Partnership. Okay. And again, countries like in Africa, just because they're from Liberia doesn't mean they speak the Liberian language. There are 40, 50 different languages in each different African countries. And these immigrants are speaking the language of the cultural group. Okay? Okay, we could go through these. All right. Go ahead. All right. Okay, what I want to get into now is the connection between ethnicity and agriculture. Because, okay, go ahead. Just a quick quiz here. What's the unique California crop that Italians have in common with Marilyn Monroe? And that one is, when the cherry season starts, probably the most popular cherry is this kind of dark purple cherry. It's called a Bing cherry. Who's it named for? Rice in California is now planted, especially in the north, it's planted by airplanes. Who came up with this idea? And California is now #1 in dairy. It's bypassed Wisconsin. But there's one ethnic group that really is responsible for this. Which one group is that? And then there's another type of ethnic group. This is out of the valley, but I just put it in here. This ethnic group made one town in California egg basket of the world. And then the other one is these are farm workers now. Zapotec, Mixtec, Triqui, for example. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of introduce you to the diversity of producers. Okay, let's see what the answers are to some of them. In terms of the Armenian contribution, they have been responsible for making the San Joaquin Valley produces over half the raisin that's produced in the world. Okay, and see, I think this is referring to the Mennonites. Okay, let's take a look. This I don't know how old this map is, what the changes are, but this map shows the location of Mennonite farms around the Ridley area. This must be about 40, 50 years old, and be interested if the people may have some updates on this. As far as the dairy production is concerned, the ethnic group that's responsible are the Portuguese-speaking from the Azore Islands. Okay, go ahead. And this plots the location of all the dairy farms in the Central Valley, or especially around this area, Kern County, for example, Tulare County, and these are all pretty much all Azorean. Okay, and these are the 8 islands in the Azores. And if you go ahead, next map, will show the concentration of. It's not just Portuguese speaking, but people from certain islands tend to congregate together. And so the California Dairy Association is heavily Portuguese, and there's tremendous solidarity built, not just because they're sharing the same kind of work, but they're also same culture group, but also they geographically, people have concentrated together, living near each other. Okay, go ahead. This is a European group. I don't know if how many Swedes are still in Kingsburg, but the Swedes made Kingsburg the watermelon capital of California. Ironically, the best known person from Kingsburg is an Afro-American who is a decathlon champion, Olympic champion. Okay. And these people from India produce more than half the peaches in the Yuba City, Marysville area. These are Punjabi farmers, Sikh farmers. Actually, they're from northern India. And so people may not pay attention to the East Indian influence, but they've had a big impact here. But this is not a valley, but one thing that has made Watsonville area a very rich apple producing area is because of the Dalmatians from the former Yugoslavia. Okay. And this is the answer. Marilyn Monroe, the first Miss Artichoke. And it's the Jewish community that made Petaluma the egg capital of the world. And they formed it because of political reason. The Jewish immigrants wanted to really get back to productive activity. But they fell apart because of the politics. There's a fight between the Mensheviks and the Bolsheviks, and the Petaluma Jewish community fell apart. All right. And then we now have a big group of farmers from, farm workers now coming from Oaxaca State, and this is the reason for the great mix of people from Mexico whose second language is Spanish. Okay. And it just shows a map of Oaxaca State, and again, the location of where the Zapotecs and the Mixtecs come from. Okay. This is just a quick rundown on the Asian contribution to California or U.S. agriculture. What happened was if you look at farm labor history, the original farm workers in California were Chinese, then they're followed by the Japanese, then the Filipinos, and then the East Indians. And then during the Depression, we had people coming from the American South, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and so on. And now the greatest force seems to be from Mexico. But the Japanese, just to give you a quick idea about the Japanese workers left farming, left farm work, and they started producing, and they were very productive. And although it's very hard to see from where you're sitting, they accounted for 90% of about a dozen different crops, 50% for maybe 25, 30 different crops, and they were very productive in their work. But instead of getting praised, they got attacked, and the attack came in the form of alien land laws. The alien land law said people who could not qualify for citizenship could not lease or buy land, and no Asian immigrant, with few exceptions, could become a citizen until 1952, the McCarran Act. And so a number of Japanese farmers left, but I grew up on the Yakima Indian Reservation, and there were 100 Japanese immigrant families farming. The reason we were there was because the Indian reservations came under the jurisdiction of the Department of Interior, and they were not governed, influenced by the state alien land laws. 17 states passed them. So there's a kind of history behind the rise and fall of different ethnic contributions to agriculture in this country. And my family lived through this period. Okay. So go ahead. So this is a story about struggles in terms of the different ethnic groups, and originally, especially in terms of California, many ethnic groups came as a source of cheap labor, or they were a victim of genocide or persecution. And when they got here, they were welcome for their work, but they also faced a lot of discrimination, and they had to struggle. And so they had to come up with different kind of solutions to keep going. Okay. I can just comment on my family's experience. We got put into the camps. When we came out, we started share farming strawberries. It was Driscoll Company, and I was taking care of the family books, and I couldn't figure out why we were selling to different buyers, like Safeway. This is 1947 prices. But a whole crate of strawberries got sold to Safeway for $3. But then a whole crate got sold to Scatena and Company for $1.27. This is 12 baskets. That's a lot. The prices have changed today. And what I found out was that Driscoll owed a lot of money, borrowed a lot of money to Catena, so they're obligated to sell to them, but they got very low prices. And the whole point is that if you're share farming, you really have no voice in terms of marketing, and because the share farmer provides the labor, and the owner provides the resources, the tractors, and so on, but they took care of the marketing. And so what happens is many of the Japanese farmers who got out of the camps who were share farming start farming on their own. And oh, you can go ahead, next one. Let me see. What? Okay. The way the Japanese immigrant farmers were able to keep growing was they formed a co-op. So in terms of our family, we belong to the Nature Ripe Strawberry Cooperative. And if you're growing fresh strawberry, you sell at the market. And when you get to peak season, price goes way down. So one way to combat that was to buy a freezer. Because once you have a freezer, you could sell frozen strawberries. So 1 pound of frozen strawberries can get you as much as one whole crate of fresh strawberries. And you can also sell strawberries to ice cream companies and to jam companies. So there are ways you could expand the possibilities. So this is how groups, by working together, could survive and grow. Okay. This is just some commentary on other ethnic groups. There's, town of Ellenworth, not too far from here, go ahead, was started by this man named, he was a colonel in the U.S. Army, and he wanted people called blacks out of the South to start a fresh life in the West Coast. So they started this community called Allensworth, they ran into a problem. They're successful at first, but they ran into a lack of water, and they couldn't get water from the regular sources. And as a result, the community died out. And today it's a historical site. There's a museum there. But they had great plans. But this is just a story about a minority group in California ran into some real challenges, and they couldn't get any help. Okay. And these are other examples of groups that have been helped by Oxfam America. In terms of the discrimination faced by minority farmers. At one point, I worked with Rural America, and we have, at one point we had about, the Afro-American had about 11 million acres of farm. Now the Afro-American farmland is down less than 1 million. And the reason why it's disappeared is that the farmers, to tie themselves, had to borrow money, but the ag extension workers and others couldn't come through and help them out, or they would withhold assistance. And the way you could pay off whatever debt they had was to sell their land. And that accounted for a tremendous loss of Afro-American land ownership. Okay. Okay, this is camp life. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. This is a camp that, in fact, this is Hart Mountain, Wyoming, where our family was. I'll show you some. Go ahead, another one. This happens to be my family, my father and my siblings. And my father was trained as a carpenter in Japan. He served an apprenticeship in the Imperial Palace. And when he was a carpenter on a ship that hauled timber from Anacortes, Washington to Kobe, Japan. And on the third trip, he told the captain, "I'm going to stay here." And this is in 1927. And when he walked from Central quarters of Seattle, about 18 hours. He had a room in a hotel in the Asian section of Seattle, and he read about the ethnic paper reported a story about a fishing boat from his prefecture in Japan that had floated into Puget Sound, and all the fishermen were dead. And so there was a memorial service for the people from the prefecture. And when he went to contact the people who organized the service, he was told that there are half a dozen families from his hometown that were also on the Indian reservation farming there. So that's how he got to the reservation. But the problem was, I mentioned earlier that because of his carpentry skills, he had helped build the supervisor building an auditorium annex to the Buddhist temple in the town of Wapato. And because of his leadership, when the war started, he got picked up by the FBI and he got sent to the Department of Justice camp in Fort Missoula, Montana. So we were separated, and my mother and I tried to figure out how to get him back because we were still farming, and that's when my mom says, write to the president. So I wrote to FDR, and needless to say, I got no response because we were at war fighting, and war was across 2 oceans there. And but one thing that helped was that there was the director of the Department of Justice camp said that he wrote me a letter, and the letter was sent to Master, not Mr. Isao Fujimoto, because he knew I was 8 years old at that time, and he said that we're working on your father's case, and because we wrote all these letters for half a year, he got released and he joined a family in Harmon concentration camp. Although we were still detained, at least we were together as a family. Okay, go ahead. Okay. These are just quick overviews about how to overcome discriminatory barriers that the minorities have faced. This shows you that not all Asian immigrants were counted in the census. Chinese were the first to be included. They got included in the 1870 census, Japanese in 1890, the Filipinos in 1950, and so on. It kind of gives you an idea about the inclusion and the counting of different people from different countries in the world. And in terms of, I mentioned earlier that citizenship rights didn't prevail to everybody too. So I'm giving all this background in terms of understanding what groups went through and what they had to do to help each other. And the key here is really people working together across ethnic lines and working not just individually, but to work as a community, all right? And this is our family after we got released from the Tui Lake camp, and we started share farming in Morgan Hill area, okay? So, and then we left the share farm, we started farming on our own in a town of Coyote. Coyote had a population of 150, and I left the farm to go to Berkeley, and my first class was double the size of the whole town of Coyote. Okay. And these are another solution of what ethnic groups can do, or any type of group can do, is to form associations so that you work together. And I mentioned about this Nature Art Strawberry Co-op that we were members of, and the Livingston Sweet Potato Co-op is in the Central Valley. But these are ways that people could work together to support each other. Okay. Go ahead. Things do change. This is a generational differences. In terms of the first generation, they only spoke Japanese. Second generation, they speak both. The third generation have very little command of the language and so on. But anyway, within 3 or 4 generations, ethnic groups go through major changes in development. All right. What I want to do in the remaining minutes is to talk about what kind of effort has been done in terms of bringing people of different ethnic backgrounds to work together in the Central Valley. All right. And this is a group that Stan Santos. There's never people that you're going to be hearing Johnson London later on. He worked with the Central Valley Partnership also. I was a project facilitator for CVP for 10 years, and we worked with 150 emerging immigrant organizations. About half of them, about 75 of them, were people from Mexico. About a dozen came from the state of Oaxaca, and we had people from Russia, from Liberia, and also about 25 of them were from Laos, different ethnic groups from Laos, and they're all in the valley. And the purpose was how to get people of different backgrounds who are in low-income jobs to become vital participants in helping the valley grow. Okay. And just as a quick makeup of the 20 active organizations that formed the Central Valley Partnership, working with these 150 emerging immigrant organizations. Okay. And this is a list of the groups, but this is put together by the Irvine Foundation, and it shows you the variety of groups that were involved. On the left, you find what type of approach was used, and then on the right are the names of the organizations that formed the partnership. But you have groups that are very radical, the Saul Alinsky type groups that are very aggressive. Then you have groups that work with the community service organization, of course, like the United Farm Workers. And then you have the Peace Church groups talking about the American Friends Service Committee. And then you have the Liberation Theology following Paulo Freire's idea, El Colegio Popular that Stan Santos, who's here, worked with, followed that approach. And then we have the group following Highlanders in Tennessee. They use their approach for popular education. So anyway, these are different approaches, and we got people together to work on different ways in terms of mobilizing immigrant organizations, all right? And these are some of the projects that came up from the work of the Central Valley Partnership. The original idea was that if immigrants could become citizens, that would give them more recognition and power. But we found that citizenship was just a goal. There are other things had to do first, and these included getting jobs, getting the youth acknowledging their cultural background, and another was to train leaders. So there are many other kind of projects that the Central Valley Partnership got involved in. And so this is the kind of work that was done by the CVP over a 10-year period. And so this is, well, go ahead. So this is a quick, on the left, the symbols, the shape of the symbols tell the kind of projects that were worked on. They worked in, just quickly, worked on citizenship, worked on adult education, on immigrant rights, and leadership, arts, so on, youth projects. And then these colors show which kind of ethnic group was involved. And so the most important thing was really bringing people together because many groups had, if they worked together at all, it was worked within their own ethnic group. And the CVP brought people of different ethnic groups to work together so they could recognize that the problems they faced were shared by others also. And the solutions they could come up with were also workable for themselves and others as well. Okay. And so this is the map of the Central Valley. This is in the early 2000s. And you see the color-coded by ethnic group, but also the shape will tell you what kind of projects are worked on. And the great amount of activity just around this area here in terms of the projects that were attempted and what kind of efforts were done to bring people together. Okay. And so this is a quick rundown in terms of what kind of groups are involved. You know, Hispanics 61 and Hmong 22, Southeast Asians, so on, and the kind of projects that worked on. Popular education and citizenship were among the most popular ones, and you have many others, groups working on leadership, economic development, and so on. And so these projects were supported by Irvine Foundation and involved close to 150 different groups, and over 225 projects were done. And so this is just an example, not just talking about what kind of problems exist, but what can you do about it, and what can people do about solving them by working together. Okay. All right, that's okay. And this is one of the offshoots, because of the different immigrant groups would come together. And so they form something called the Civic Action Network. You look at the faces, and people of different ethnic groups come together, work together. And this is just a quick overview of what was accomplished. Okay. All right. So one of the ways that people come together is not just working together, but celebrating together, sharing their culture. So what you have here are groups, the Hmong and the Mixtecs working together, cultural festival. Okay. And there are approaches to community action. I won't take time to this could be just showing different strategies, different tactics that are used. Okay. But one thing that I became aware of when I came to Davis in 1967, and the farm worker strike was in the second year already, and I made a trip up and down the valley and made contact with the American Friends Service Committee, and Chuck Gardner and Herb Foster were in the office, and they told me they were supporting the strike. And the strike was interesting because it was, at that time, it was the Filipinos who started the strike. It was called the Immigrant Workers Organizing Committee, and then the Mexicans formed the National Farm Workers Association. And the interesting part was when they struck, the first signs that went up were in Arabic. And the reason it was in Arabic was because of 7,000 workers from Yemen that were brought in by Pan Am to Stockton Airport. And so it was a combined Arabic, Tagalog, Spanish effort that pulled that strike together. And then another, of course, important was that the workers had legal assistance to the California Rural Legal Assistance Group. And this shows where all the different CRLA offices were. All right. And, okay, go ahead. That's what this is another thing about paying attention to decision making. At one point, almost half a dozen of the congressmen representing Central Valley were pretty much all Portuguese speaking. Now it's quite different, but it says something about people paying attention to political power and getting their own representatives represented in Congress. Okay, so but that's okay. I want to go back to that. So just a quick summary about the work of the CVP and also how to take advantage of the cultural richness of this rich agriculture area. And of course, one is, you know, when you look at anything, look at the back as well as the front as you can. And then check and see what's visible as well as what's not. And you want to find out who really owns something, who really runs things, like the water, for example, in the Central Valley. All right, go ahead. All right. Another way to connect what's going on in the valley is to share the story with others. And we've done this in a number of ways with groups across the United States, but I'll show you a couple of examples. Go ahead. I was also working with the Rural Development Leadership Network, and what this is working with leaders of minority background working in rural areas. And many of these people are very dedicated, and they were going to college, but they put off finishing their degrees. And so we started an institute at Davis in 1985, and this way the rural workers would come in and get beefed up again, doing their academic work, go back home to their area and work with the local college and find a faculty member, and then get a degree from Antioch College in Ohio. So every other year we ran this institute, and it's still going on. But we would get these people in touch with organizations in the Central Valley as well. So there's like a fertilization of ideas and work that could be learned, people can learn from each other. Okay, go ahead. Skip that. And this is the location of where the RDLN workers came from. Pretty much the black communities in the southeast, the Native American communities in the Great Plains, and then the Spanish-speaking communities in the southeastern California. All right. And then the other group that I worked with was the Asian Rural Institute. And the Asian Rural Institute is in Japan, and they train village workers from the Southern Hemisphere, from Africa, Southeast Asia, from South Asia, Pacific. And they spend a year in Japan learning about sustainable village development. And I taught a course at UC Davis for 20 years, and after my course was over, I would go to the ARI and talk to them about what's going on in California and also in the United States. And we share stories about what's going on in the Southern Hemisphere. And this is the way in which people can learn from each other. And so this is how you start developing associations and the sense of people helping each other out. So I would say a key approach to solving problems is collaboration, sharing stories, working together, solving problems here, cutting across ethnic and cultural lines, because the problems are very much in common in terms of powerlessness or impoverishment, whatever it might be. So this is, I want to just say, put the Central Valley in the context of the possibilities that can be done, and it can be put into place in terms of not just California, but in the United States, but the rest of the world as well. Okay. I think that's it. Okay, that's fine. But this is the representation of where the people from the different parts of the southern hemisphere come get trained in Japan. And so I guess the other message is that it's not just the United States that's doing these kinds of projects. There are countries in different parts of the world that are also doing very constructive work. And so knowing what's going on in terms of both the problem identification and problem solving is something that we all share. And so I think the work that I learned very early from the work that I benefit from the Peace Church efforts, especially the Quakers and what they've done, has really influenced my life a lot. And I learned about community building from watching my father help out building supervising building of the Buddhist annex on the Yakama Indian Reservation. And the fact that I've been able to work with a lot of very energetic students and people in organizations in the Central Valley has been really encouraging, and I'm really glad to be able to share what's the possibilities of the valley. Here we have the richest region, agriculture producing area in the world, and we have such a rich cultural base, and I'd really like to see that cultural diversity harnessed in the most constructive way. So this is a story of what the possibilities are. Thank you.